Let's get some insight into the Purdue Boilermakers, and we always go to our guy, Tom Dienhart, goldenblack.com, part of the On3 network. Been talking to Tom for a long, long time, and we get to talk every year because of this protected rivalry. Tom Dienhart, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Good to see you, Jeremy. Like I said, known each other for a long time. I remember going on your radio show. Seems like 100 years ago with was it J and Tay show?
Tay and Jay, yeah.
And then we're two bald brothers, so we got that in common too. And only 90 miles apart. So look forward to you guys making the drive over on I-74 here.
Yeah, these are very similar schools.
Mhm.
They've gone through the ups and downs in football. And basketball, obviously, is the powerhouse. I'll ask you about basketball before we get out of here. Before we get to the present of this game, of this rivalry, I got to bring up the past. We were talking about before you came on here, just because people around here knew Ryan Walters. I don't think they liked Ryan Walters the last couple of years after he left, but he was a really good defensive coordinator here, Broyles Award candidate. What went so wrong, Tom, in the 2 years with him?
I think a lot of it was he didn't build a real good staff. And I think he needed help putting his staff together. Just not a lot of experience there. When things got sideways last year, and he had fire his offensive coordinator Graham Harrell, then you start looking around the room. And you go, "Oh my God, who's going to call the offense now?" And there was nobody on that was a full timer that was really capable, and unbelievably, he he had an offensive analyst called the offense, a guy who'd been a high school football coach. He did that for one game. Then, of course, when they come to Champaign, Jeremy, Ryan Walters takes the headset. Now he's calling the offense. The kind of stuff you couldn't even make up. So I think a poorly constructed staff was really at the heart of a lot of his issues last year. It's big taking that having your first job be in the Big Ten as well. And I think it kind of overwhelmed him in a lot of areas, all the demands on your time. And sometimes I think you try to be a little bit too much of a friend than a coach. And I kind of wonder if some players didn't take advantage of him. I think you have to have that command, that respect, and there has to be a little bit of fear. And I think maybe some of that was missing. But we all learn and move on, Jeremy. We all think he's got a bright future.
Yeah, he's a really smart football guy. Now at Washington, I thought he did a good job against Ohio State last week, but we'll see if he can get back to that head coaching spot, and I'm sure he learned a lot from his time in Purdue. So why did Purdue go with Barry Odom, a guy who's been a head coach before, and what is the impact he's made on the program so far?
It was a bit of a surprise for me, Jeremy. Defensive guy, just like Ryan Walters, a defensive guy. I thought Purdue would flip. When you fire a coach, the next guy's usually a 180.
Yeah.
And I thought they'd go kind of like a Jeff Brom kind of guy, right? Offensive coordinator, a proven head coach for sure at this point. They got the proven head coach, obviously, I think, in Barry Odom. But another defensive guy. And I think you guys know Purdue. You guys, it's the cradle of quarterbacks. You got to score points to put seats in the fans in the seats usually over here, not far from where I'm talking to you. And so I thought they'd go that way, offensive oriented, because you're never going to win a defense over here, Jeremy. Never. They never have stout defenses. You're going to have to win with offense. So I was surprised with that. But again, Barry Odom's a proven head coach. His personality, mindset, blue-collar guy, tough guy, former linebacker, fits over here. Doesn't seem to have a big ego, not pretentious. The typical, I could continue with the stereotypes. Roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Lunch pail. Yeah.
Lunch pail. And you know what? His mantra, hard, smart, and tough. Hard, smart, and tough. That's his mantra. So there you go. And again, that's pretty sort of a no-frills place, right? And so I think a lot of it was that fit too. And did a great job at UNLV. I'll give him credit. That's a coaching graveyard. And he won 9 or 10 games those 2 years there. And was a 500 coach at Missouri, but he was a young head coach back then. So he's been on the big time. So I think that impressed Mike Babinski, the AD here. He'd been on a big stage before and held his own. He's a relatively young guy too. He's not even 50 years old. So I think a lot of it was fit and experience. And I know Barry Odom's very appreciative of this. And he always says they give him whatever he needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way I look at it is they needed competency, right? They just needed to be competitive. And it hasn't been pretty in these first 4 games, but it does feel like just a competitive streak, some mental toughness that's come in that program. Like, what have you learned through 4 games, 2 against really tough opponents in USC and Notre Dame?
You don't they don't beat themselves. They're more buttoned up. Their penalties are way down. They're I think one of the least penalized teams in the Big Ten this year as well. And their ability, Jeremy, to respond to adversity. Everybody's going to get punched in the nose. We get punched in the nose in our life. Football game is always a game of dealing with adversity, but not that. But how you going to then continue to respond to adversity? Last year's team usually would shrink, maybe even lay down at the first sign of adversity. This team continues to fight. Now, it's not going to be the most talented team on Saturdays when it looks across the sideline most of the rest of the year, to be honest with you. But you don't always have to be the most talented team to have success. We know that too. So you're right. I think there's a lot more fight. It's a better coach team this year as well. The talent is just, I think, average. They would never say that, but it's just average. They have some real issues still, I think, personnel-wise. But again, nobody expected miracles, Jeremy. Like you said, be competitive, right? Last year, 66-7 loss, 66-0, 52-6, 48-0. It was an utter abomination. And so far, so good, right? They've beaten who they're supposed to beat. They've lost who they're supposed to lose to. They look decent against Notre Dame and USC. Here we are, Jeremy. This is in October where Purdue can maybe make some hay. I'm not saying they're going to beat Illinois, but after Illinois visits, they've got a trip to Minnesota. Maybe. Then they've got a trip to Northwestern. Maybe there. And then Rutgers comes here. So maybe Purdue can get a couple wins this month. A 4-8 season and you're competitive against everybody else. I think a lot of people would be happy with that.
Yeah, you just got to take a step forward. So they are coming off an off week too. While Illinois just played 2 ranked opponents, obviously a beatdown at Indiana, emotional win to bounce back against USC. I know a lot of people looked at this as a trap game. Bielema's done a pretty good job in those moments, but what does this game mean for the Purdue side of things?
Yeah. You guys got Ohio State next weekend too, right?
Yeah.
So you got the plucky Boilermakers in between USC and Ohio State. You got to schlep over here. It's an opportunity to compete against another highly ranked team. Every time Purdue pulls its head up, there's another ranked team waiting for it. It seems like. And here's Illinois. Gosh, you've been over there a long time, Jeremy, and they're in the midst of a very nice little run here, right? Illinois has some good blips. They can never have these extended runs, kind of like I like Purdue. But boy, Brett looks like he's got it, man. This is his job. He's a native son of Illinois. Him and Josh Whitman click, and it's just all going really well for him right now. So an opportunity for Purdue maybe to shock the world as a 10-point underdog. But realistically, if they can stay in this game, Jeremy, make Illinois sweat, get into the fourth quarter, keep it competitive, the stuff I've already talked about. You hate to sound like a defeatist with that type of attitude, but I'm not a head coach, so I can say it. But I think realistically, most fans on Saturday, I think that's what they're going to expect.
Yeah, I think
or should hope for.
Yeah, make it a 4-quarter game, right? See what happens once you get there. Like, I think Illinois is more talented. They got the quarterback, but Ryan Brown is a guy that I think Illinois knows that they should fear a little bit because he broke out last year here at in Champaign. Just an amazing second half for him and the Boilermakers. And you mentioned Ryan Walters. Say what you will about him and as a head coach, like that was a heck of a performance by him calling that offense against a defense he knows so well. But what progress is Ryan Brown made in year 2 as a quarterback? Because it does look like some progress is being made.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it last year, don't you? What a weird day that was. Anyway, 50-49 overtime win. Purdue goes for 2, gets stopped. Ryan Brown's first career start. He looked pretty good, right? Didn't know what to expect. I think he's a solid to above average quarterback, Jeremy. I'm not sure if he's an all Big Ten guy ever. Maybe he will, but I think he's a kind of guy you can win with. He's every bit of 6'4", 215. He can run it. They'll design runs for him, and he can improvise. And has a pretty solid arm. Can make most of the throws. Now his decision making is still dubious. He's got 5 interceptions. He's thrown a pick in each of the last 3 games. I think sometimes, Jeremy, you can try to play hero ball maybe try to make a play when it's not there. So that's a sign of immaturity, I think. Trying to do too much. Um, and again, I tell you the one thing, Jeremy, the players talk about, even last year, is the intangible of being a leader. Seems to really be a beloved guy in the locker room. The kind of guy, that type of a guy you want to play hard for him. They like you. They like Ryan Brown. So I think that has some value too. So he's a weapon for sure. Now the big key is to continue to protect him. We shall see. I don't know. There's a lot of issues up front still for this Purdue offense. I think they got some good skill on the edge to throw to, and the running backs are solid. But that offensive line, even the D line too, Jeremy, are still a little suspect.
I was going to say, Michael Jackson the third, Nitro Tuggle. These are really talented players that seem to be making some plays. We know Devin Mockabee. He's been great against Illinois in his 3 games so far. I think it's 340 yards total with 3-4 touchdowns against Illinois. But the trenches is where this program's got to build up over the next year or two, right? I mean, the offensive and defensive line seems to be where the struggles are mostly happening.
You're a football expert. People watching this love football. Pee Wee football, the NFL, it's always won in the trenches, man. And you're right. And it's hard. It's hard to get good lines. It's really hard to get good big people. Usually lazy, and they make a lot of money in the portal, man. If you're good, so you're right. The line, especially Jeremy, the right side for Purdue, really struggled in the South Bend. From what we've seen in practice, I don't think there's going to be any personnel changes over there. I think that's the best they got. You got to live with it and come up with somebody's scheme around it. And so, yeah, that's an issue. The pass blocking's gotten a little bit better, the blocking, and that's always an issue, Jeremy. You could probably replay our interviews for 10 years and always lament Purdue's inability to get the tough yard, especially in the red zone. So that's just a Purdue thing. It's always more of a finesse program. Like I talked about, throwing the football. So you're right. They got to get tougher and bigger and stronger up front. So if they got to get 1 yard on Saturday and everybody in the stadium knows they got to run the football, Illinois knows they're going to run the football, can Purdue run the football? We'll see. And defensively, too, boy, I tell you what, Jeremy, their best defensive tackle's out for the year, the kid named T.J. Lindsey from Auburn. They don't have anybody like him. And big blow. A lot of pedestrian guys up front. That's all they are. The nose tackle's pretty solid. One of those big, giant, 340-pound guys, Jermaine Harkless.
Former Illinois commit, Chopped Harkless.
You go Chopped Harkless. And the defensive ends, they get nothing out of their ends. And Trey Smith he just kind of runs around out there. And C.J. Madden from Georgia, they get nothing off the edge. So, yeah, they struggle. They got to blitz. They will blitz you. And they're gonna have to gamble. They're gonna probably give up big plays, but they can't just sit back there with a quarterback like Luke Altmaier. I just don't know how Purdue's going to stop that Illinois offense.
Yeah, it's my biggest question. Can they force Illinois into mistakes? Right, Illinois is going to have to make some mistakes because I just think offensively Illinois should be able to move the ball. The secondary for Purdue has really struggled. So, yeah, I think got to be aggressive side on the area of aggression. Like, what else would be the keys for you to pull off an upset here?
You're right. I always think if somehow, after just lamenting the run game, if somehow Purdue can shorten the game by keeping the ball for extended stretches, running the ball, short passes or de facto runs, keep Illinois on the sideline, keep that offense for Illinois on the sideline for extended stretches if they can.
This is not a dominant defense for Illinois. I mean, up, so I think Purdue can score some points in this one.
Yeah, they could. I was going to go like 48-31 was my score. And takeaways, Jeremy, Purdue has 1 on the year. Fewest in the Big Ten. They got that last couple weekends going up in Notre Dame. They never take the ball away. And they're going to have to find. And I know some of that. You can generate takeaways, but sometimes teams will just mishandle a snap or do something crazy that's unforced, but it'll still turn the ball over. Purdue has none of that luck. Maybe they'll get a game where somebody has 5 turnovers or something against them. But they got to try to generate turnovers, win that takeaway battle. And then I always say, you got to have big plays. You got to score on some big plays. And offense, defense, You're not going to have 12 play drives and always score. A long touchdown pass, a long run. How about a special team score or a pick six? Purdue's going to have to get like a touchdown maybe in that unconventional area of the game in special teams or defense. So a big play, unconventional touchdown. It's going to take a perfect cocktail for Purdue to pull this off. But, man, that's why they play these games every Saturday. You look at the scores. You go, I cannot believe Virginia beat Florida State.
Yeah.
So we know this stuff happens every weekend.
Well, especially in this Purdue-Illinois game. Purdue has had Illinois' number for most of it. Even last year, I consider a pretty good game for Purdue to make and take the lead take the lead at one point in that game. So pretty unbelievable. So I think Illinois is never overlooking Purdue at this point. Bielema's 1-3, Tom, against Purdue.
I saw that, and he kicked their butt all the time in Wisconsin.
That's right.
I got one other quick stat for you. Yeah. Purdue's not forced a punt since the second game of the year.
Wow.
Southern Illinois, I think 24 possessions. They didn't force a punt against USC. They didn't make Notre Dame punt. So there you go. Some more reasons to lament the issues Purdue's had on defense so far. Now the best part, they got two pretty good linebackers, two UNLV kids. They got a kid, Charles Carrera he's number 5, and they got a kid named Manny Powell, number 16. But otherwise, you talked about the secondary of the line. Just some real struggles there in both those areas.
Last one for you, Tom. There's a lot of hope for basketball, and there should be. With the roster they have returning, I wouldn't be shocked if they're the number 1 team in the country. I know they're going to be the number 1 team in the Big Ten going into this season. What is the thought, or what are the hopes for Purdue basketball entering this year with Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, and some really, really talented additions coming in?
Yeah, sorry about that. There's still a landline here, if you can believe it.
I like it.
There's no rotary phone, at least. They're huge. They're huge. Some people are already turning the page, Jeremy, to basketball.
Yeah.
And the preseason poll is probably going to come out soon, and Purdue may be preseason number 1, right?
Yeah.
That means nothing at all, but fans love it, and it's good for our business.
Mm-hmm.
Excitement's building. Basketball stories probably still get more hits than football stories. The heart of football season for our side. Understandable, right?
I've been there many years, Tom. I've been there many years.
Yeah, Illinois is the same. Illinois and Purdue, like you said, are kind of like brothers in a lot of ways. The same kind of academic schools, great engineering schools, mostly really basketball. Let's be honest, they're kind of basketball schools. But when each team can get going in football, I think there's some nice football tradition at both schools too. But anyway, I'm digressing. You remain Braden Smith. You talked about Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, your holy trinity of sorts coming back. They got big 7'4" kid who had to redshirt last year, Daniel Jacobson, who got hurt early. And the transfers, they got the kid from Israel, Omar Mayer, and a big kid named Oscar Clough, who's an Australian who had played at South Dakota State. And he's probably going to be your 5 with Kaufman-Renn at the 4. So yeah, just it's kind of funny. You look at the roster, oh my God. But sometimes, everybody wants to play, Jeremy. And you kind of, every team's chemistry is different. So you kind of wonder how this is all going to sort out. It's a nice problem to have if you're Matt Painter. But they've got some options. Jakari Harris is back. CJ Cox, who were 2 good freshmen last year, too. So they got a lot of guys. Everybody can shoot.
Yep. So,
as you know, Jeremy, man, expectations are huge. And teams like that, even close wins get dissected like they're losses. And everybody's constantly wringing their hands, and the message boards are streaming if there's a 2-point win. That's not good enough. That's what they're facing, but I guess it beats the alternative. Nobody cares, right? Love me, hate me, don't ignore me.
Yeah, that's right. And they got Matt Painter as their coach. That's a really, really good thing. Tom Dienhart, goldenblack.com. Go visit them, part of the On3 network. Tom, always great to talk with you. I'll see you Saturday in West Lafayette, man.
I look forward to it, my friend. Be good. Thank you for having me, Jeremy.
Fall's here. Crisp air, football, maybe a bonfire or 2. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work. And yeah, that means sweat. Don't let body odor side on you. Mando deodorant plus sweat control is for real working guys. Formulated to stop odor before it starts and doesn't mask odor with overwhelming fragrance. So you can tackle anything from the job site to tailgating with confidence. Don't mask it, Mando it. Guys, Mando sent me their starter kit, and it is a fantastic product. It keeps you fresh all day long. It's not your typical deodorant. It's clinical strength, and it's 2 times better at controlling sweat than the standard. It controls both sweat and odor for more than 72 hours. And after just 12 hours, underarm sweat was reduced by 92%. This stuff works. So try out their starter kit, which includes deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like their mini body wash, deodorant wipes, and get free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code Illini at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. Shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. All right, let's talk the Illinois side of this Illinois-Purdue game. 11 o'clock kickoff, Big Ten Network in West Lafayette. Bringing in Joey Wagner. Joey, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. It's hot. I'm now at the Jeremy Werner levels of this sucks.
I'm done with summer.
I got some like gooey butter pumpkin cookies. We got the pumpkin. Like we're kind of all in here, except for it's 85 degrees outside, and I'm a big human being, and I'm sweaty, and I'm hot, and I hate it.
That's the thing. It's just you go outside and you're still sweating while you're walking around. I'm ready for that crisp air. Like I walked outside at like 7:30 and did like a lap around the block. And I was like, this is it. I need this in the middle of the day. It's gonna be 80 something degrees in West Lafayette on Saturday. It's just like I'm done with this. It's October now.
Yeah, I'm gonna sweat. If it's over 60, I'm probably gonna be sweating a little bit. But not to this level. This is bad news.
Yeah, so I'm ready to turn that page to fall and enjoy the 3 weeks of fall that we get before the snow arrives. It'll probably be snowing by the time my kids go trick or treating. Joey,
did it do that one year?
Yes, 2 years ago. Or it was like 2 years ago. Yeah. It's
either
ridiculously hot or it's like snowing. There's no in between.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of fall this year, I don't think.
Probably not. All right. People didn't come in for a weather report. They want to talk some Illinois football and just better vibes this week, Joey, and rightfully so. That was a huge bounce back win. So any lingering thoughts from the last couple of days, being able to catch up with these players about last week's victory over USC?
Not really. I mean, it's just the offensive line was a big story, right? You wrote about it. It's just kind of getting back to what they do. I wish we had a little more time because I still have why is it taking 4 games question?
Yeah, we only got 4 questions with Bart. We'll dive into the O-line here. But yeah, I still got some questions about why it's taking some time. But yeah.
But I mean, just from a fan base perspective, you can just see like there's a lot more calm right now. There's still a couple injury questions out there, Matthew Bailey being one of them. I think that's it. Daniel Brown doesn't sound like he'll be available. Bailey's the one we're all really monitoring, but yeah, I mean, things are just kind of back on track. This was like we talked about after the game, 4-1 is roughly what you expected. Oh, yeah. It was just a real ride to get there, right? And things that maybe you didn't expect, the offensive line, and ended up kind of where you thought they would be, and a chance to keep that same trajectory going this week at Purdue.
Yeah, all right, let's get into our 6-pack of questions right away here, Joey, and let's start with that offensive line. Are you buying the USC game as a true breakthrough for that O-line?
Cautiously, yes. Very cautiously, though, right? Because you can't shake what you saw in those first 4 games at different times. Like that happened, and you have to ask why that happened. Is that something that can happen again, right? Like those things are still out there. But this has kind of been the road for the Illinois offensive line the last couple of years. You wonder, what's going on in these first couple of games? They have that moment. Last year was kind of a hybrid of Michigan and Nebraska. Like those 2 games really solidified what you thought about that offensive line and kick-started. So it's following the same trend here. And look, these guys have a body of work that suggests what we saw against USC is more the norm than what you saw against the first half of Duke, first half of Western Michigan, the entirety of Indiana. So I cautiously, Jeremy, but like I do still think like how can a team unlock some of the things that gave Duke, Indiana, Western Michigan intermittent success on this offensive line?
Yeah, I think we came into the year thinking O-line could be a strength of this team, but I think in our O-line preview, we even talked about like, I don't know if this is like the dominant group or this is a top 3 or 4 group in the Big Ten just based on talent level, but I am buying this as the breakthrough to getting back to the offensive line we thought they would be, which is a top half offensive line. And you give Barry Lunny and Luke Altmaier top half offensive line, I feel pretty good about where your season is going to go from here, because that is a good defensive line at USC. Maybe not the stoutest, but neither was Duke's. And the biggest thing that kind of came out of the discussions that we've had with Brett Bielema, Barry Lunny, Bart Miller was that this was more about mentality than almost anything, that they were going to be the aggressors across the line of scrimmage. Because Bart basically said they were concerned a little bit maybe about what the defensive front was trying to do to them more than imposing their will and imposing their identity, which is this physicality. That's how Bart recruited these guys, right? Like Bart likes big physical double team, get downhill kind of guys, but Barry likes to run some of these horizontal things, get guys moving, east to west. So this game, they did more of that double team, just got off the ball and kind of erred on, hey, we might make a mistake, Joey, but at least do it aggressively, at least do it with physicality rather than, we got to fit this up perfectly. Because that's kind of who Bart has always been. Like, you talk to him, he wants size, power, aggressiveness, a mentality. Like that's what he looks for more than anything, than maybe just, the technique has to be perfect on every play, because he thinks if you play like that, you're going to look like what you did maybe the first 4 games. So I still don't understand why it took 4 games to get here. I don't understand. I wanted to ask Bart that, but we only had 4 questions with him, and we got some of what last week was about what the changes were. But man, just getting downhill a couple yards, just moving that line a couple yards. Look what happens for Caden Fagan. You're getting 4 or 5 yards a pop, and then you can break one for 15 yards. Khalil Valentine, he doesn't even need a lot of space, but you give him a little space downhill, and he can make plays happen. And again, that just puts Luke Altmaier and Barry Lunny in great positions. And I just think those guys are really good at what they do. So this is what we expected, right? Out of this offensive line. There's talent here. There's experience. I just think it's odd it took 4 games to get here. But the one thing about Bart's offensive lines, once they turn the corner, they do turn the corner. 2023, they were terrible. First 5 games, but the last half of the season, they were good. Last year, it felt like 3 or 4 games it took them to get to where they are. But man, then they were great at the end of the season, outplaying Michigan, South Carolina, who are 2 of the most talented defensive fronts in the country last year. So I buy it because, this is kind of what they've done. Better or worse, they've usually ended the season well and turned it around mid-year.
Yeah, I got a little more on the offensive line later on in the pod, but this Purdue also kind of sets up for building on that. This isn't the most disruptive Purdue defensive front, so that if you want to start banking games, banking reps, banking series, this should set up for an opportunity. There's one point I want to touch on that you mentioned in your conversation with Bart.
Can I mention one thing before that?
Yep.
They will not look this good against Ohio State. Ohio State's defensive front is ridiculously good. The rest of the year, though, I feel good about it. So I wanted to add that asterisk. They're probably going to get beat up a little bit. It's probably going to be a struggle against Ohio State, but go ahead.
Yeah, so which is also like a 2-week cautionary. Like if it looks rough against Ohio State, don't panic and think it's all back to the first 4 games. That's a really good defensive front. Obviously, we got to actually see what it looks like, right? But the point that you mentioned about Bart talking about like not fitting to what the defense was going to do, that was such a big conversation point in the first few weeks, was like defensive coordinators, line coaches, defensive fronts see stunting as an option, as an available place to kind of throw off that Illinois offensive line. So that was an interesting comment. I'm curious your thoughts on that, because we talk so much about that.
I think it's just like they got so bogged down in thinking about what other people were doing, and they're just trying to teach these guys, right? And you're trying to make sure you make the adjustments necessary. But even he said against Duke, the second half adjustment was really just getting downhill and executing better, and being more physical. So it feels like they got so bogged down in the X's and O's that the offensive line was thinking so much about that stuff that they weren't focused on, I'm just going to beat the hell out of the guy in front of me. And being able to run some of those vertical runs, double teams, getting uphill, just more simplified blocking than some of the zone scheme stuff. Like, I just think it made things simpler for them. And, Josh Kreutz isn't the biggest guy, but he's physical. And when you give him double teams with Geske and Henderson on either side, that's when you can start moving those guys. And when Kreutz is really good is when he can get back onto those linebackers. So when he gets that little bit of help, all of a sudden you see that interior push happen. The other part I want to mention, the tight ends were way better. Phenomenal blocking from Christian Abney, and Tanner Arkin got back to what he does. So I want to mention those guys were really good in the run game as well, and that was part of why they had success.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. You had to mention that because that was part of before that Indiana game. They were lumped in hey, it's not just the offensive line here. It's play calling, it's tight ends, it's quarterback. But they were good. I do wonder, Christian Abney did not play against Indiana. I'm not suggesting the difference there by any stretch of the imagination, but I do wonder if that was just that extra rest was enough for him to come out and be a little bit more physical in ways that we've seen, because they like that about him. You saw that turn up in those first 3 games, and then definitely again against USC.
Yeah, the question we had, would they make any personnel changes? They didn't. And those guys played, I thought, their best ball. Like the guy we thought that could make a change was maybe Brandon Henderson. Maybe you get Des Schuster in there. Maybe you get Brandon Hansen in there. But I thought Brandon Henderson responded with his best game. It wasn't perfect. None of this was perfect. But they took the fight across the trenches. It felt like the other teams were taking the fight to Illinois. They took the fight across it.
Yeah, and hey, if you give Luke Altmaier an extra second, he finds Hank Beatty for a crazy toe-tapping catch on a big 3rd down, right? Like that, a second for Luke Altmaier in the pocket is just so valuable and can drastically change a play. Even though it's not a lot of time, he can really make the most out of that, and he's gifted enough to make the right throw if he's got the time to do it.
I know I mentioned in the last podcast, but 4.9 yards average distance on 3rd down compared to 8.6 against Indiana. It's so much easier when you do that.
Yeah, it changes everything. And we talked about it the last pod, but Caden Fagan's ability to just be 6'5" and fall forward for a little bit more each time, or sometimes even have you noticed a little lunge forward?
6'3",
a little bit, like 6'3". Jordan Anderson 6'5", 6'3", a little lunge forward, like those add up, right? And it gets you to that 3rd and 4.9 or whatever it was against USC.
All right, number 2, Joey. How concerned are you about the defense after allowing 95 points during the last 2 games?
Yeah, moderately, especially without Xavier Scott. We will talk with Brett Bielema Thursday about Matthew Bailey to see. He obviously did not play the second half against USC, but with the secondary that you're missing Xavier Scott, probably your second best defensive player, top 3 defensive player. We'll see what happens with Bailey. They're a little younger. Tanner Heckel has had really good moments. I didn't think he had outwardly horrible moments against USC. Mekhi Lemon's just awesome, right? And he made really, really good plays. But if you got to run a little bit more zone back there, if you don't want to put some of those guys in one-on-ones, it's a little harder to ramp up some of that pressure on opposing quarterbacks, right? Illinois still does they are a top 5 pressure team in the Big Ten in terms of pressures generated. You wouldn't always think of that because the conversation is always, why are they rushing 3? They do get pressure on the quarterback, but you can't really dial it up maybe as much as you'd like without putting your secondary in one-on-ones back there. So I still like some of the talent. I like the defensive front. Dylan Rosiak's playing really good ball. The secondary is not a totally lost cause, right? But you've got to help them out a little bit. And maybe some of that is winning some more battles up front. But the yardage is there. We know Aaron Henry is good to sacrifice some yards. I think that much is very understood. But the point total is where it's like, okay. And even though Indiana skewed that number to a pretty high amount, USC, when it really mattered, was able to get down there and get in the end zone. And hold on, one more thing. 3rd downs.
Yeah. 3rd
downs are, I'm sure that's where you were going. That is where they're allowing 44.4% on 3rd down this year. They were 44.9 last year, 44 in 2023. If you're going to make teams matriculate, right? Like that seems to be the thing. You got to stop them. Like you've got to get off the field when they're giving you that opportunity to get off the field.
Or you got to get a lot of takeaways, right? Like one or the other. You got to win some of those money downs. They're 57% against Power 4 teams. So that is a concern. I am fairly concerned about the defense. They are not as good. And Xavier Scott's injury is a big part of this, as I thought they would be coming into the year. But it is worth noting, USC is number 5 in the country in scoring offense. They're number 1 in adjusted EPA per play. Indiana is number 6 in scoring, number 20 in EPA per play. These are elite offenses. Heck, Joey, Duke is number 27 in EPA per play this year. These are really good offenses they've gone against in the Power Four. The remaining teams you got, Purdue's number 47 in EPA per play, Ohio State 42, Washington's very good, number 7, Rutgers number 23, but then you get Maryland 115, Wisconsin 71, Northwestern 107. So part of it is you're playing great defenses, but I'm not as concerned as some fans about play calling and scheme right now. I think Aaron Henry is doing a decent job right now. I'm more concerned about personnel, and most of it is in the secondary. We talked about corner as a concern before Xavier Scott was even injured, right? Like, hey, Torrey Cox, Caleb Patterson, what are you getting out of that right now? Now you're playing a very inexperienced player at star, and you're going through the growing pains with Tanner Heckel. Jaheim Clark definitely helps. I think that was such a massive to get him back. I know you talked to him today, playing 80 of 81 snaps and playing pretty well, being rusty. I am encouraged about where that goes. I think he's going to have a good end to the year, and you hope Tanner Heckel gets better. But you got to start cleaning up on 3rd and 4th down. You just have to get better. And I know USC made some great plays, but you got to start winning some of those one-on-ones a little bit more. Just some of those downs getting off the field, whether it's the pass rush, which has generated pressure, but just isn't getting home enough outside of Gabe Backus and Leon Lowry, getting some of those to the ground, or if it's just making a play on the ball. It's just they are losing too many of those in the secondary right now. So Aaron Henry said, Joey, that was the least I've played man-to-man in my career against USC. And he's right. They played zone 83% of the time. And I get it. Like, are you going to run man-to-man with this? We saw what happened with Tanner Heckel on a few of those. I just don't think this group right now is built for that. So you have to be selective with the blitz. I think Aaron Henry has really mixed it up. He blitzed on one of those where Tanner Heckel got beat by Mekhi Lemon. So especially when you got quarterbacks that can run like a Ryan Brown, it's hard. I just think Aaron Henry has a difficult job just because that secondary, how much can you trust them? So you really need your front four to win some battles. And Gabe Backus has. Gabe Backus has been really, really good this year. I think Leon Lowry has come along. If you get some of your defensive linemen home or just get a blitzer home a little bit more, I think that would be big for this team.
Yeah, the other part of that is Ryan Brown, like Jade Maeva, can play off script. And that means you're asking that secondary to cover a little bit longer as Ryan Brown runs around. And he's talented enough to make those plays when he's running around. If he doesn't just keep it, then you got to force your secondary to come up and get him down. So, yeah, the secondary has been obviously a point of conversation we've had on here. I do think Jaheim Clark is going to really, really, really make a difference. He's a very good player.
He's their best corner.
Yeah, he's a really good player. The fact that he played 80 of 81 reps tells you a lot about, hey, we'll live with some rust because we want you out there, right? And missing him for that many games, obviously you saw I think he would have been starting long before that USC game. But, yeah, that's the tough part. It's the secondary and what they have. You look back and you think maybe they should have gotten another corner in the portal. Because Donovan Turner has not, I don't even know that he's been on the travel roster at any point in these first 2 road games. So it kind of is what it is. I don't know that you would look for a freshman. Like the closest freshman I would think would be RJ Jones, but then you're asking a freshman to step up in the heart of Big Ten play, right? Like that's hard. That's hard to do. Marv Reynolds is a little older than that, but personnel-wise, yeah.
It's weird because, I don't know what the war is for college football players, but Xavier Scott's pretty high. He would have stopped one of those plays. He probably would have gotten beat on one of them by Mekhi Lemon, but he probably makes one of those plays. And it's just not having your best guy in the secondary is certainly going to have a huge impact. And it has so far. And it just, I think this defense has got to be bend but don't break, and they got to start getting more takeaways and get off the field on 3rd down a little bit. If they do that, I think they're going to have a really good season because I think their offense is very good. And I think their defense can play complementary football. And they're just going to be playing some teams that aren't as good offensively coming up.
Yeah, that is going to be the big change, right? Like Ohio State's got all sorts of dudes. Washington is good offensively. Or you are coming out a little bit of the war, and that war happened to be with you lose Xavier Scott. Jaheim Clark wasn't available. The numbers aren't very pretty, but I think we have to understand. I'm not going to defend giving up high yardage numbers because ultimately you don't want to do that. But you know how Aaron Henry operates. Like he is going to sacrifice some of that as needed. I have a little bit more on that
They
later on.
they don't want to give up big plays, and they are really good at that. I mean, USC, they had multiple 40-yard plays every game before this. They were the best, most explosive offense. You made them matriculate down the field. It's just you couldn't get off the field on third down, or you couldn't get you got 2 takeaways, but you couldn't get that sack, or you couldn't do that because Jaden Maeva is really good. He had a really good game and escaped some of those things. So cap tip to a little bit, but you got to just improve just a little bit, just a few more of those plays you got to come up with.
Yeah, I'm going to save a little bit of that for another point.
Okay. All right.
Coming up.
Number 3, is Purdue a trap game for Illinois, Joey?
How many years in a row? I mean, that's going to be the question, right? Yeah, sure. It can be seen by that. Purdue is a team that turned over everything. They have a new coach. This is a team Illinois' favorite. I think it's 9.5 at this point. Jeremy, then you obviously big emotional win, bounce back win against USC. You've got Ohio State coming to town. The same reason I feel like it's the same reason I felt like Illinois was going to win last week. Brett Bielema. Brett Bielema's not, I think he's just good enough to not let that thought seep into the building. Obviously, there's human nature, right? You see a team that you know you're probably better than, but Brett will bring up, hey, the last 2 years, there was a loss in a close game. He'll bring up the Cannon Trophy. He'll bring up all of this stuff. And I just think he's really, I don't know how much of that he has to truly, how many strings he really has to pull for that, because I think that's been done over the last 5 years. Obviously, there's still a risk, right? But I think that classic, overlook Purdue, I don't know that really happens inside of that building. That's a credit to Brett and his coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, other than tough, smart, dependable, what's the thing he says more than anything? 1-0 mentality, right? And he came out this week and said that was a big moment. It's part of our history, beating USC here at home, the way we won it, the walk-off, the crowd that was there was unbelievable, Big Noon Cook-Off being there. He said, now we have to flush it. So it's the same thing as Indiana. We got to learn from it. We got to flush it and move on, and that 1-0 mentality. And let's be honest, Purdue can't be a trap game for Illinois. They're terrible against Purdue. That was the worst Purdue team maybe of all time last year, and they almost lost. They almost lost to that team despite being up 25 points at halftime. You got smoked by a Purdue team that was bad 2 years ago. Bielema was 1-3. Against Purdue. So they've had the trophy 1 year and they got it by the hair of their chinny chin chins because they didn't call a fumble on Luke Altmaier in end of regulation. They scored a touchdown. They scored to send that into overtime. And then Dylan Rosiak has the sack on the 2-point conversion attempt, which I loved Ryan Walters going for that. But this is a veteran team, and Bielema is really good at getting the team to kind of refocus each week. And it's kind of like, you look at his history, he's been great in these and not having trap games. Because, Joey, do you know how many games Illinois has lost as a favorite under Bielema? Take a guess.
I'd love to hear it.
4.5 years. How many games have they lost as a favorite?
How many games would they? 4? 3 or 4?
Good guess. It's 5. UTSA in 2021, Michigan State and Purdue in 2022. Obviously, that cost them the Big Ten title appearance. In 2023, Nebraska, awful performance, 20-7. And Northwestern when they lost in overtime in that game. Haven't lost as a favorite the last 2 years. They're pretty good at this. They're pretty good at beating the teams they're supposed to beat. Now, it's not always pretty. They don't always cover in those, but they do seem to focus. Like it never seems like they, outside of Ryan Walters' Purdue teams, play down to opponents here recently.
Yeah, and that's Brett. That's his coaching staff, and it's just he does a good. And it's not just you got to revisit it every week, right? I think that's the big thing. I think he does a good job of that's just kind of inherently how they go about things. And look, honestly, you and I here, fans here, like even when we're talking about this, I'm like, this feels so cliche to say, right? Like I feel like it's just kind of like, oh, of course, they don't, Bielema doesn't do that, but he doesn't. Yeah. And I think you talk to enough people, you hear enough, you recognize like it's not just crap, right? It's not just some saying they have, and obviously, as you mentioned, they back it up. So he's just really good at that. That's what you get if you're Illinois and you've got a coach who has been around. He's seen some stuff. He's been a part of some stuff, and he knows how to keep that refocus. And then, as you mentioned, an older team who's been around, who's seen some stuff, who's been a part of some stuff. They know maybe the value of each of these.
Yeah, and it's as simple for Bielema. It's like if you don't win this game, then next week doesn't matter, right? Like if you want to get to where you want to go, You got to beat Purdue, handle business, and then you worry about the number one team in the country and take your shot at that for your chance at a college football playoff, right? Like you still got to take care of business every single week to get there. All right, number 4, Joey. What do you think of the Barry Odom fit at Purdue? I bring this up because they play every year. I mean, this looks good now, like that you had these protected rivalries against Purdue, Northwestern, because obviously they've struggled here in recent years, and it gives Illinois at least a more manageable schedule than some of these other teams have. So what do you think of Barry Odom at Purdue and what he can do?
Yeah, it's a floor raiser, right? I think that is what Purdue needed after the Ryan Walters experiment, is someone to just come in, raise the floor back to competency, right? And here's the thing. Illinois didn't really benefit from the Ryan Walters disaster fit, right? Like he beat them. He nearly beat them.
I told Tom Dienhart this. The only people that were maybe as happy as Purdue fans to see Ryan Walters leave was Illinois, right? Because he was the only one that they seemed to bother and really be pesky against.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the bad part for Illinois is you didn't get to be like, oh man, we're beating up on this team with the coach. You couldn't figure it out. But Barry Odom come in. He is 46-35 as a college head coach. He's a defensive mind. Brett Bielema talked about that. I thought that was interesting. A guy who you're probably going to be grinding it out with Purdue when he gets that thing going. But the floor is just a lot higher long term with Barry Odom. He's a good coach. He's a smart defensive coach. Brett and him have kind of had back and forth of their time in the SEC. Is this going to be where Jeff Brom had Purdue? Probably not, or at least it's harder to get there, but it's not going to be where Ryan Walters had Purdue either. And I think that is maybe this year will be a growing year. They have so much turnover, but I think Jeff Brom has earned the benefit. He's turned some programs. He had UNLV moving last season. He's a guy who's going to make them relevant, keep them in football games.
Yeah, and that's what this hire was. Right. This was a guy who could clean things up from the mess that was created because you rolled the dice on Ryan Walters. And I've told you, knowing Ryan for a couple years, I can understand why he came or how he came into that interview and wowed them. And they're like, this is the next star. It's just there was a step that was skipped. Right. And Ryan just did not hire a very good staff around him. So we'll see if he gets another chance of it. I think he's a really bright coach, but it clearly was a disaster. It was a high ceiling hire for them, but obviously a very, very low floor. This is a high floor hire, as you said. I don't think he's the next Joe Tiller or Jeff Brom, but they just need a proven head coach to bring back competitiveness in the Big Ten. If they win 4 or 5 games this year, that's a success. If they just do that and look like they're more competitive, that's a success. If they make a bowl game in year 2 and year 3, that's a success. Now, I think there's a ceiling here, right? Like, his time at Missouri kind of shows that. He went 25-25 in 4 years there, 13-19 in the SEC. Purdue would certainly take that, I think, after 4 years here, right? That would be a big step up for them. But at some point, Odom's recruiting classes at Missouri weren't great. They were in the 40s. His best was at number 34. So at some point, you may need to go higher your Eli Drinkwitz. And what has worked at Purdue? Tiller, Brom, offensive guys put up.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So that's why this was kind of an uninspiring hire, but I think this was the hire, whether it's the Lovie Smith for them or you hope it's better than that, but like just to get you back to credibility, just to get you back to competitiveness. I think he's the guy that gets you point A to point B. I have doubts he'll get you to point C, but they need to get to point B first.
Yeah, I echo all those things I was going to bring up. Like they're the cradle of quarterbacks. You've gone back to back. Yeah. Defense first guys, which is interesting, but I think Barry Odom can at least get your program back on good footing. And that is, Ryan Walters had 4 Power 4 wins in 2 years at Purdue, one of which was Illinois, right? And none of which happened in the 2024 season, the second year. Obviously, that was a big undertaking for a first-time head coach to go into a Big Ten job. I didn't expect it to be that. Like now that we're removed from that this far, we talked about it last year. I did not think it was going to go that far in that direction. Maybe there's always going to be a step back after Jeff Brom. He is a good coach. He's a really, really good coach and took Purdue to places Purdue maybe had not a lot of business being in, right? He's just really good. But I didn't think it was going to be 1-11 in year 2. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it was a disaster. I like Ryan a lot. I think he's going to be a hell of a defensive coordinator hire for Washington. And I think him being on the Illinois schedule is not great for Illinois, but it'll be interesting to see how long it takes him to get another chance at this, because that's a big stain. Just the way it went, right? It's not just that you lost. It's like you lost by 40, 50 points in a lot of these games, which made that Illinois game just incredible. All right, number 5, Joey. What's the biggest key for this Illini offense against Purdue?
Super simple. Keep protecting the football. Luke Altmaier does not have an interception. The 2 fumbles last week were the first 2 lost fumbles of the season for Illinois. Purdue does not have an interception. Purdue has 1 fumble recovery this season. Your offense can move the ball. This Purdue defense is not great at this point in time, right? Your offense can move the ball. Don't give them a chance to hang around at home with turnovers. That is going to be what gives them a little bit of life, gives them that momentum. But just protect the football. You've been really good at it all year in a way that you almost like, are we jinxing it by talking about it? Hank Beatty brought it up the other day, but Luke Altmaier has been a really, really, really good at protecting it. And some of those fumble issues that we talked about, we haven't seen with Luke Altmaier. And I think the biggest point of that was when he got smoked by a USC cornerback and held on to the thing.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like, Illinois got away with 2 fumbles inside the 5. And I know one was probably not a fumble, right? But like, to win that game despite that is pretty rare, right? So I had play clean. Like, that is the biggest thing for this offense. Like, no bad turnovers, no pick sixes, no scoop and scores for Purdue, because that's how a game can get way more competitive than it should be. No terrible penalties that take big plays off the board. As you said, Purdue's going to give you a lot of opportunities. They have the worst pass rush in the Big Ten, according to PFF. They have the second worst pass efficiency defense in the country, or in the Big Ten, excuse me. They're number 130 in the country in EPA per pass play. So just don't shoot yourself in the foot, and take what they give you, take advantage of their mistakes, because they're going to make it. You should be able to protect. You should be able to run the ball. Just take care of it. Right? That is the program, and that is the way that when you're a favorite, you can find yourself losing a game is when you have all those turnovers. So I'm on the same page with you, Joe. This is a really good offense that found something last week. I expect the offensive line to continue that. So as long as Luke Altmaier doesn't turn into a pumpkin here, which I don't think he will, he's an unbelievable quarterback, then I think Illinois' offense will do just fine if it doesn't shoot itself in the foot.
Yeah, and the foe, Nathan Barrett said, hey, Purdue's going to beat a team that you're not going to expect them to beat at some point. I also don't think that is this week, but turnovers will make it where you get a little nervous at West Lafayette. They're going to start getting some takeaways at some point. You got to hope it's not this week. Illinois has been very good at that, but yeah, just be clean. Don't wipe off those big plays that you mentioned. Don't take even a 5-yard play that's negated by a hold, right? Like don't set this offense back. This offense is really, really good when it's playing ahead of the chains, and Luke Altmaier is really, really good and he doesn't turn it over.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's a NFL player on Purdue's defense right now. Illinois has got multiple NFL players on their offense, right? And probably a future FBS head coach calling the plays. So there's a huge advantage on that side of the ball. Number 6, what's the biggest key for the Illini defense against Purdue, which has put up some points against some good teams here, Joey? So what's your defensive key?
Get off the field on 3rd down. Like we talked about it earlier, I think that is the biggest thing, and that's going to mean containing Ryan Brown, because he's going to make some plays with his legs. He's probably going to run for a 1st down or 2 on 3rd down. He's good. He's a good player. He can, and if you start thinking you can creep up on him, he'll put one over the top on. Like he's a good quarterback. He's comfortable running, but you can't let him keep extending drives. You can't let Purdue have another chance at 1st and 10, right? Like the whole make teams matriculate down the field thing, I get it, right? You don't trust that a college quarterback is going to make enough plays over the course of a game, nickel and diming, but you also run the risk of them making 1, right? Or making 2 really big plays and giving them those extra opportunities. Nitro Tuttle is a good wide receiver. Devin Mockabee is a good running back. You can't let them keep hanging around and flirt with the loss there. Just give yourself that chance. I am wondering if they'll maybe get back to that turbo package that we've seen on 3rd down, if you can force them into some of those 3rd and 5, 6 situations.
Yeah, they've done a little less of that, I think, because they love James Thompson, and Angelo McCollum, right? Like, I think they've loved that kind of 3-3-5 look a little bit more. So it'd be interesting what they do here. I agree with you. Tackling is such an important part of that, right? If you're going to play off and make them matriculate the ball down the field, you got to tackle well. You can't give them big plays because you miss tackles. But I said win up front, dominate up front, Joey, because I do think your defensive front is good. It's not dominant, but against this Purdue offensive line that has really struggled, especially their right tackle, Bakine Coley is his name. Jalen St. John, old friend, former recruiting target. He has struggled a little bit. Their right guard has struggled a little bit. They give up a lot of pressure. They haven't gotten a lot of push. USC, Purdue averaged 1.9 yards per rush. They had 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks against Purdue. Against Notre Dame, Purdue, 2.7 yards per rush, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks for Notre Dame in that one. You should be able to rush 4 and win this game and win battles in this game. And I think Gabe Akis, James Thompson, Tommy Wadurajai, I think they're more talented than the guys they're going up against. So those guys win up front, force Ryan Braun into long thirds, and I think they're going to have some success because one thing Ryan Braun does do is he makes some plays. He's a good athlete. He's improved as a passer. He's going to give you some chances at the ball, Joey. He's got 5 interceptions so far this year. He throws across the middle a lot and does do some things that make you scratch your head. So he's going to give you some chances, but you got to set up those 3rd and longs. And I think they will, but this is a really advantageous matchup up front for Illinois' defensive front. They got to win it.
Yeah, real quick, is across the middle of the Illinois defense, has that been named? Anything, that territory, is it named? Do we have a name for that officially yet?
Is that Scottsdale? Is that what that is?
I've heard that start to get some steam last week.
Or is it Rosiak land? First interception since when for linebacker? I haven't heard the stats exactly.
Archie McDaniel mentioned it today. I was just thinking back to who it would have been, either Jake Hansen or Tariq Barnes. I feel like one of those two, because CJ Hart recovered a fumble.
I remember Delshawn had multiples, but that was like 2018. I don't think it goes back that far. Let's see here. No, 22, they didn't have one in that group. I would imagine 23 they didn't. Let's see here. This is Tariq Barnes, 2021 had one. Is that the last one?
Makes sense.
Because they didn't
before Delshawn in 18. That would probably be the last one.
Yeah. Last one, Tariq Barnes, 2021.
I didn't realize that streak had gotten to that point. I didn't even remember what we were talking about.
Keys for the defense. But yeah, Rosiak land, Scottsdale, whatever.
Whatever. Scottsdale's catching steam. There are dozens of us who appreciate the Scottsdale. There was one other point I wanted to make in what you said. I am curious if we see more Malachi Hood this game. We didn't see him a lot last game. I asked Archie McDaniel, I don't know if it was a matchup thing or what that was. He has been good as a spy, I think, on some of those 3rd, and you can get him into 3rd and 6, 3rd, 5, 6, 7. I would like Malachi Hood out there to be that spy option and keep him in check, because he's got the speed to keep up, and he's a sure enough tackler that he'll at least slow Brown down. So if you need someone else, you'll have time to get there.
You're right. I would like to see that NASCAR package. You got to put the defense in opportunities to run that, right? The 3rd and longs. It's hard to take Rosiak off the field, though. So I get it a little bit because he's so much. He's their best linebacker by far. But Malachi in those situations, I think, is really good. Malachi had some good games early in the year. Had a couple struggles the last couple of weeks. But, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Are we ready for Picks to Click?
Let's do it. I won last week.
Last week you had Colin Dixon. I'll take that one for a win for you. I had Khalil Valentine. I felt good about it as he was going towards the end zone. And then obviously Eric Gentry made a great play. I did like the quote that Thad Ward gave me. Grab the watch, he said. That's the teaching point, is you just got to grab the watch, and he's got to learn. He said it was a bad play. Running backs, we know we got to do that in that situation. And I think he just was looking at the end zone and got excited. And Eric Gentry with that 7-foot wingspan came in and punched it out. So hell of a play by him. But yeah, you got that one, Joey. Defense, Matthew Bailey for you was having a good game before he left the game with injury. I had Rosiak, so I'll take that one.
Yeah, you got that one.
Bold predictions. Cole Russ, touchdown, no. Illinois will score a touchdown on its first drive. I forgot I got that one.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. Defense, Joey Miles pick 6. Did not happen. I thought PFF did not like Miles Scott for some reason. I do not understand. I thought Miles had a very good game, had 10 tackles, put some licks on those tight ends. I know they caught the ball, but he didn't give up any yak on those plays, and they came like a 36 grade. I thought it was like a 65 out of him.
Yeah, that was like Sidney Brown levels of what Miles Scott ever do.
They hated
PFF. And like, even if you look at like the advanced stats to try like the coverage stats or that didn't add up either.
No,
it wasn't a large
game.
number of missed tackles. It wasn't a ton of targets. I didn't understand that grade even in the side. I thought JoJo Hayden was a little low too. Yeah. But Miles Scott in particular, I'm like, wow, how is this even a grade?
All right, Joey, we'll give you the first pick to click on offense. Who you got?
Yeah, the whole offensive line. I'm just going to go. I'm doubling down on this group. Cautiously doubling down, I suppose. Purdue has 10 sacks this season. They're 9th in the Big Ten with 10 sacks. Only 3 against Power 4 teams. 9 tackles for loss against Power 4 teams. This is not a disruptive front. In fact, old friend alert, Jamarion Harkless and Chop Hark and then D'Amico Kennedy are probably their 2 best. They both from what was that school? Frederick Douglass High School?
Yeah, Louisville, right? Or
yeah, that's right. They're
Lexington, Kentucky. Yeah,
they were both from the same high school. Illinois obviously had a commitment from Harkless. Those 2 are probably their 2 best defensive linemen. They've got 19 pressures total against 2 Power 4 opponents. Luke Altmyer is going to have some time. The secondary is going to give Luke Altmyer some space if he's got that time. Purdue allowed 216 rushing yards per game in their 2 Power 4 games, Notre Dame, USC. That should open the door for the running backs. I just think this is a big opportunity for that offensive line to build on what was a good week against a defensive front that you probably should have some success with.
Yeah, just don't let old friend Trey Smith, former Illini, go off in this game. He plays a rotational role for them off the edge, but they have not been getting much pressure. I like that. I like doubling down on the offensive line. It was a great week for them last week. I'm going with a guy that just feels like he's due for a breakout, a big performance numbers-wise. Hudson Clement. I think it's his time. Like Hank Beatty's going to get a lot of attention. Colin Dixon's had his couple weeks. We know Bullock's going to score a touchdown almost every game that he's playing. But Hudson Clement has 20 targets. That's 2 fewer, than Colin Dixon. Yet he's got 120 less yards. I just feel like he's due, Joey, for like a 70-yard game, a first touchdown of the year for him. I just feel like he's been really good. He hasn't had a drop. I think they trust him. It's just, for whatever reason, the connections have been made with Beatty and Dixon so far. So I just feel like, he gets 5-6 targets. I think he can have his best output of the season. So I'll go with Hudson Clement.
Yeah, I agree very much. For whatever reason, being Beatty and Dixon have been really, really productive. I think that's ultimately the first reason. But Clement's been on this. I feel like he's been kind of flirting with this game. I think I had him at Indiana as my pick to click. Yeah. He's just, you can see it's right there. And the opportunity more than anything is there for him. He, Bowick, Beatty, and Dixon are the top 4. Not in that order, Bowick could be the 4th. Those are the top 4 receivers out there. And against the secondary, there should be an opportunity for Hudson Clement.
Yeah, this Purdue secondary is really, really struggling. And just a few of the passes, like Altmaier's been off with Clement, right? Dixon was that guy the first couple games. It feels like Clement has been too. So I just think that connection will get going here. All right, Joey, pick to click. Defense, who you got?
Yeah, I'm still staying with Dylan Rosiak. He's playing just really, really good football right now. He's playing confidently. That interception obviously was a big moment, but when Devin Mockabee can get going, right? He's a good running back. He's had success in the Big Ten. Dylan Rosiak is a sure tackler. I like the idea of Dylan Rosiak containing Mockabee. I can see Henry dialing up some of those blitzes to get Rosiak in certain moments with a head of steam at Ryan Brown, because we know Dylan Rosiak's instinctive at that. He's really good at timing, when to attack on those. And I also just want to bring it up because it had been a thing in the past for Devin Mockabee, not as much this year. He's had a little bit of fumble issues in his past. Dylan Rosiak has had some fumble forcing success in his past. So maybe not I don't know that I'm even going to predict a forced fumble, but it's something to watch because I would imagine Rosiak is going to be punching at that. But he's a guy that you trust to punch and also know when it's time just to get the runner down.
Yep.
He's just a really veteran player.
Are we at the point that we can't pick Gabe Backus?
Well, I hope you don't, because I do have one coming up for him. But if you want to click, you sounded so defeated. Like I told you, like a dog ran away. You can to click them. It's going to have to.
I will say, like, it at least has to be like either 2 sacks or like a sack and a half and a forced fumble, right? It's got to be a high bar. I think it's one of those games for Gabe Backus. This Purdue offensive line is not good. If they've watched any film, put him over that right tackle, let him cook. Let him cook, because the right tackle's giving up 12 pressures. And can we say this? I know I'm talking to like a 3% people out there that feel like Gabe Backus is not showing up enough. Watch the games, please. Please just watch the games. And the stat sheet says it too. He's got 4 sacks. He's got 2 forced fumbles, right? Like, he has wrecked games. And the one turnover on downs you had in that game, Gabe Backus just absolutely wrecked that drive. The final 3 plays, he had pressure on Maeva that forced 2 and 3 incompletions in a row. That's as good as a sack, right? Like, so I know you're watching those numbers and everyone expects him to be Myles Garrett. That's not who he is, but he is a hell of a pass rusher, and he's having a great season. And I think he has one of those games that reminds everybody of it. So I think Gabe Backus, this is one of the games like against Michigan State last year, against Michigan last year, where his handprints are all over it.
Well, I had bold prediction 2 sacks for Gabe Backus. I will come up with a new run. So far, I have no bold predictions either way. So I'll have to think about those.
Well, how about I start it then? How about
offensively? Yes.
All right, bold prediction, offense. I almost picked this guy for my pick to click. It's just, I feel like every game you're gonna be reminded that there's 3 running backs in this group, and obviously Khalil Valentine's so exciting. Caden Fagan has got back on track, but Aiden Lawfrey played a little bit, had a few tough runs. He's getting healthier. I think this is a game against this defense where Aiden Lawfrey has one of those explosive runs. So I'm going to go with a 20-plus yard touchdown run for Aiden Lawfrey. I just think he's going to have one of those moments like, oh yeah, there's a third guy in this group that's really, really good.
I like that. That's, it's clearly been a little bit of a slower build-up to get him back from, I think it was an ankle injury he had at Duke, but he is a little bit of the forgotten guy. Caden Fagan's getting going. Khalil Valentine is so enticing when you just see him move. Aiden Lawfrey's a good player. And it's kind of like there's a point every year where it's like people, sometimes us included, right? I'm not going to put that, but like forget, like, hey, that dude's a really good football player.
This version of Aiden Lawfrey would have been the best running back in 2023, right? No question.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's just like, he's really good. It's just there's 2 other really good players too. And Khalil, man, I mean, just the juice he's got, the vision, the physicality he's playing with. So he keeps wrapping up that ball. He's gonna be great. But Aiden Lawfrey's a good player too that deserves touches.
Yeah, all the way with you. Offensive bold prediction. I didn't have anything. I was like, I'll just dial up the Jordan Anderson mobile again and get that going. I'm not going to do that. 2 touchdowns receiving for Justin Bowick.
Oh, I like it. I thought you were going to go tight ends.
No. I am the president call? No. I am all in on red zone Justin Bowick. And you know who else seems to be all in on red zone Justin Bowick? The offensive coordinator and the quarterback.
Did you say Luke Altmaier?
Like Luke Altmaier, actually, I don't know if you listened to him, if you were with him post game for USC, someone asked him about Bowick, and he said, Stepp came up to me and said, who do you want in? That guy. That means he's going to get some reception, some target options in the red zone. He's a big body. I think Illinois will be able to move the ball to put themselves in the red zone. And I like Bowick being the go-to guy.
By the way, I love that play call. I broke it down in our film room, but they had I think it was Beatty in motion, and just the safety followed him. It was clear one-on-one. Bowick set up the route really well, and it was just easy pitch and catch. So really good stuff from them. All right, defense, bold prediction. I stole yours, so I'll give you a moment to think about it, Joey. I'm going to go with, and this might be bold given they're not very good at this year, 2 interceptions for the Illini defense. I thought I was close on the 2 fumbles last week. Got one on the first drive, and I was like, oh, they might actually do this. But I'm going to go 2 interceptions because Ryan Brown will he'll give them a couple opportunities. across the middle of the field, and I like Miles Scott. Malachi Hood can be a guy that gets involved there. Maybe Tanner Heckel has a bounce back, but I think they're going to have some opportunities to potentially get their hands on 2 interceptions.
Well, you also stole an interception idea from me, but I know. Hey, it's okay.
Pick a player.
Who that's what I was going to do. And I'm just going to double. This is like the double down pod for me. Juice Clark, interception. I'm all in on what this guy can do. I think he's a really good player. Obviously, probably going to be in a little bit more zone, which might make that harder. But I think he's a guy that you could run zone elsewhere and keep him in some man situations on Tuttle. I would imagine that's going to be the matchup, right? Is him on Nitro Tuttle. Tuttle's going to get reception. I mean, he's going to get targeted a ton. He should. He's a really good player. I'll take Juice Clark getting one. That was an emphasis this offseason, is getting more of those picks. You mentioned hasn't really manifested itself to this point. The more sure answer should probably be Torrey Cox, because this feels like a Torrey Cox game. But I'm just going to double down on the Juice Clark hype right now.
I like it. All right. Illinois, as you said, 9.5-point favorites. I don't mind that number. One, I know the history of Illinois and Purdue, so I think that plays part of it. But I think this Purdue team can be feisty. It's up to 10 at DraftKings, 9.5 for a lot of other places. I do think this will be, a competitive game for most of it, but I just don't see, outside of like 3 turnovers for Illinois, Joey. I don't see how Illinois scores under 30 points, and maybe Purdue can score more than that. But I just think this offense can be able to move the ball and score a lot of points.
Can I go total chaos theory and ask you, did Barry Odom call old friend Ryan Walters during the bye week?
I doubt it.
Really?
Would Ryan? I know they coached together, but I don't know.
I mean, if anyone knows Illinois,
do you think Ryan would pick up that call? His former employer? I mean, they're giving him a lot of money to go away, but
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. If you're Ryan, like, you would assume a loss for Illinois is better overall for Washington than a Purdue loss, because you'd imagine there's going to be maybe more opportunities for Purdue to lose this season. I don't know, maybe not. And I also think at some point, Jeremy, the Illinois program, and maybe this is a year that we just throw this freaking storyline out the window, has changed enough in the time since Ryan Walters has been gone, personnel-wise, schematically, that he can't be this problem for Illinois football every game. I mean, we know that they're doing different things offensively than they did in 2022 when Ryan was there. We know the personnel is different than 2022 when Ryan was there. So at some point, my goodness, you would think that some of that familiarity would go away because he's been gone long enough.
He knows Aaron. He knows Aaron really well. You're right. I mean, Ryan coached under Barry from 2016 to 2019. Was he the safeties coach before him too? When he was the DC? Yeah. So they've got a lot of time together, including Memphis. So they go back. He probably would answer that call. You're right. That probably happened.
I mean, why? If you're Barry Odom, of course you're calling Ryan Walters.
Yeah.
You lost everybody else, but Illinois once, for goodness sakes, almost twice. Yeah, you call to see what he can help you out with. And you had an off week between games. Heck yeah. Why wouldn't you have called the dude?
Yeah, you're right. It's just, does he want to help Purdue? He probably wants to help Barry. Does he want to help Purdue? That's my major question.
Again, but if you're talking about like that next Big Ten tier, a loss for Illinois is more beneficial for Washington than a Purdue loss, because Purdue's just not in that next tier right now, like Illinois and Washington are.
Yeah. I'm still just fascinated to see what the Walters influence is on that game. I don't like it. I don't like that he's there, Joey. And it's probably more for what they do, what Jed does offensively against Aaron than knowing Barry. Like, that feels like a bigger factor to me than anything. So be interesting. It gets a couple of weeks down the road, though.
Yeah, it is. We'll get into that. That is just, at some point, it's got to not be a thing anymore.
Whenever he stops playing Ryan Walters.
I don't know. I just think there's enough that's changed. I'm not saying there's zero impact, but I think this whole oh my goodness, Ryan Walters is over there. Eventually, that's got to wind down a little bit. He's a good coach, not because he's not a good coach, but because just enough has changed since then.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else before we go?
No, I got nothing. Hey, 3 straight 11 a.m. games.
Oh, beautiful. I think people thought I'd put out the "Let's Go" gif of the coach in the locker room. It's one of my favorites because it was a big noon kickoff. No, it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. That's what I care about because I get home and I can watch Penn State, Oregon. I can watch these great games, Joey, and just get to bed before midnight. It's fantastic. I love it.
Midnight, like 3 a.m. for those night games. I mean, those night games, and look, we're not trying. I don't want to sit here. We're not complaining about covering football.
That's why I get so pumped about 11 a.m. kickoffs.
Yeah, it's a difference. I was so mad at myself. I got to bed probably at like 11 o'clock after the USC game. 6:30 on Sunday. I woke up. I'm like, are you kidding me? Of all the days,
that sounds like a good night's sleep. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's great, but I didn't want to be up at 6:30 on a Sunday. I mean, I would get some work done before the overseas NFL games, but
that's my most productive hour, Joe. From 6 to 7, nobody but Torin is up with. Torin wakes up as early as I do, but it's just me and him chilling out, getting some work done. That's a productive hour.
Yeah, I get some good recruiting done on NCAA in those early mornings, and try to get some 4 stars, get some 5 stars. You gotta get going.
How's the franchise doing?
Oh, we've done a few. Yeah, we've done a few, and turns out the Fridays during football season are like a makeshift day off, and you can really play just an overwhelming amount of college football on those days.
Good for you. All right. Thank you to Tom Dienhart for joining us breaking down Purdue. Thank you to Joey Wagner for helping break down Illinois. Thank you to you guys for listening. Give us a follow, rating, review wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. If you're watching there, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Illini Inquirer podcast.